Good afternoon. I'm Teresa Stretch, an Education and Training Specialist with the Institute of Child Nutrition, and I would like to welcome you to the July School of Nutrition S.T.A.R webinar on Strategies to Integrate Nutrition Education Curriculum within School of Nutrition Programs. In order to meet the unique training, technical assistance, and professional development needs of school of nutrition professions, ICN has launched the School of Nutrition S.T.A.R Strategies, Trainings, Action Plans, and Resources initiative to help schools develop goals and best practices to improve program administration and operations. The School of Nutrition S.T.A.R program will offer a multitude of elements that include face-to-face workshops, virtual instructor-led trainings, webinars, and spotlight success stories to proactively offer standardized training, real-life strategies of program implementation, mentorship, and coaching to develop action plans and goals, along with training and facilitation techniques, and access to free resource and educational materials to assist school and nutrition professionals with navigating through the enhanced responsibility of school and nutrition operations. The Institute of Child Nutrition has collaborated with USDA to host monthly webinars. The S.T.A.R webinar series is designed as a communication platform that features school districts that have implemented creative strategies and best practices for common school and nutrition topics, as well as allied organizations who develop and offer free resources to support school and nutrition programs. The Institute has created a website for all materials and resources specifically related to the webinars. You can find the information at www.theicn.org. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Strategy to Integrate Nutrition Education Curriculum within School of Nutrition Programs, where you will learn how to incorporate the Dietary Guidelines for Americans into education lessons for a variety of audiences. During today's webinar, all attendees are muted. There will be time for questions following the speaker's presentation. If you have a question, please type it into the question box on your screen. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but due to our time constraints, every question may not get answered during the webinar. At the end of the presentation, you will be asked to complete an evaluation. After completion of the evaluation, you will receive a certificate. Professional standards for school and nutrition professionals is a key provision of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010. The topics covered in today's webinar fall under the Key Area 1, Nutrition, and meet the USDA Professional Standards Codes, Nutrition Education 1200 and General Nutrition 1300. Our panelist today is Dr. Lynette Dotson. Lynette is in her 18th year as the director of the School of Nutrition for Carrollton City Schools in Carrollton, Georgia. Lynette completed her PhD in Food Service and Hospitality Management from Iowa State University in May 2014, where her research focused on registered dietitians in school and nutrition leadership roles. She recently co-authored the practice paper of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, Comprehensive Nutrition Programs and Services in Schools, which was published this past May. She holds a master's degree from the University of Alabama and a bachelor's degree from Iowa State University. She currently is serving a second term as member of the Georgia Dietetic Licensing Board and is also the chair-elect of the School of Nutrition Dietetic Practice Group. She was selected as the 2013 Georgia School of Nutrition Director of the Year. Her district has received numerous awards, including 2 USDA Best Practice Awards and 4 Georgia Best Practice Awards. The learning objective for today's webinar is employee will be able to utilize resources to prepare and integrate grade-appropriate nutrition education curriculum with the School of Nutrition program. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans serve as a tool to help individuals ages 2 and older adopt healthy eating patterns and make healthy choices in their daily lives while enjoying foods and celebrating cultural and personal traditions through food. Although many of its recommendations have remained relatively consistent over time, the dietary guidelines have evolved as scientific knowledge has grown. The main purpose of the dietary guidelines is to inform the development of federal food, nutrition, and health policies and programs. The dietary guidelines is a critical tool for professionals to help Americans make healthy choices in their daily lives to help prevent chronic disease and enjoy healthy eating habits. The goal of the dietary guidelines is for individuals throughout all stages of the lifespan to have eating patterns that promote overall health and help prevent chronic disease. The dietary guidelines are reviewed and updated every 5 years to reflect the current scientific research. The guidelines are: follow a healthy eating pattern across the lifespan, focus on variety, nutrient density, and amount, limit calories from added sugars and saturated fats, and reduce sodium intake. Shift to healthier foods and beverage choices. Support healthy eating patterns for all. School meal programs that are federally funded reflect the key food groups recommended by the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. School meals requirements focus on food components, not nutrients. Food components means one of the food groups that comprises a reimbursable school meal. School meals support the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Nutrition education is providing a science-based information that contributes to the overall health and lifestyle of an individual. The School Meals program is an integral part of the education system, and it is a valuable venue for providing nutrition education. School meal programs provide an excellent opportunity to teach children about nutritious foods and encourage students to make wise food choices. These choices may contribute to lifelong healthy lifestyles. Think of all the ways nutrition education is provided in your district. Before developing messages and materials from scratch, it's a good idea first to check for existing credible resources that can be used or adapted to meet the needs of your audience. In addition, there are some basic concepts to consider when developing education materials. We will briefly review some of these concepts. The following information has been adapted from the Choose My Plate website. First, know your audience. Who is it? To try to gather as much information about the audience as possible. What are the demographic characteristics? The grade of the children? Will there be teachers, administrators, or parents? Maybe even school board. Are there relevant cultural practices or special dietary needs? Think about religious, allergies, or special diets. Remember this. Create nutrition education activities that include all students or participants in the audience. What are the barriers to behavior change? Cooking skills? For instance, if you're trying to do a cooking demonstration, what are the skills of the audience? Also, time restraints. How long do you have to provide nutrition education? And what are the motivation factors? What are the motivations for behavior change? Perhaps it's for health benefits. Maybe there's a family reason, or perhaps it's just for prevention. Once you have a good understanding of your target audience, you can tailor your messages and education materials to best meet their needs. Think about the outcome or objective you would like your audience to achieve through the education lesson and material. Remember, objectives need to be measurable so education outcomes can be evaluated. Let's look at this tool when thinking about creating objectives. So you'll see at the beginning, you see actions, audience, desired outcome, and then the evaluation metric. And if you just started off by saying, I want to, and in this case, identify dark green vegetable recipes third grade students determine as acceptable. And how are you going to evaluate it? We're going to do a taste testing score form. And most importantly, remember to use plain language. Plain language is is language your audience can understand the first time they read it or hear it. Plain language is using words, sentence, and phrases that your audience understands and feels comfortable with. No single technique defines plain language. Plain language is defined by results. It is easy to read, understand, and use. Your audience must understand your message to act upon it. So now we're going to take a quick poll, and we're going to see what is the primary venue that you and your district provide nutrition education. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and share the results. Look at the results on the screen. How does your district compare to the others that answered the question? Okay, so now Dr. Lynette Dotson will now discuss her ways that her district's integrated nutrition education to a variety of different audiences. Lynette?
Thank you, Teresa. Welcome, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity for us to share our story today with you, just to give you kind of a glimpse into some of the ways that we were able to integrate nutrition education into our school district, and also to share, most importantly, some of the impact that that has had not only on our school nutrition program, but also our school district. Just to give you an idea, let's see here. Well, okay, just to give you an idea, as Teresa mentioned, I've been the director for 18 years. My long-term interest has really been in impacting our students more for overall wellness and to have a healthy future. And so because of that, I've always had an interest and a focus on nutrition education. Like many of you, though, my time was kind of limited. So that's what I hope to kind of share today with you guys, is how we advance that initiative. Okay, again, Carrollton City Schools, we have almost 5,200 students now. We have 4 schools, so we have really large schools. I have 60 school nutrition employees. We're about 57% free and reduced. And almost a third of our students are what are called non-residents. So they pay a small tuition to attend our school district. And also we're a city system. So in Georgia, there's a lot of county districts, but there's 22 city systems. So our clients are primarily city residents, with the exception of those that are non-residents that join us. As far as central office staff, originally it was just myself and a admin assistant, and my staff has grown, and that'll kind of be evident in my story. I think some of that is a result of the nutrition ed we've done has also created a need for more staff to help support that initiative. So now I would like to share a poll with y'all before we get started into the actual meat of the presentation. So if we can show the poll. Okay. So if everyone will kind of share with us what you think the benefit of doing nutrition education is. Just give you a few minutes here to answer that. Because really it's important to understand, like, why do we want to do this? Okay, so now we'll go ahead and we'll close the poll and move back into the presentation. I'll share the results of the poll with y'all. Okay. Apologize. I'm trying to get my screen to go big enough to read it. what happens. So the results really show that it was primarily it helps get students to try new foods. That was the number one factor. It's a great way to, also the second factor was it was a great way to promote school meals. And then following that, there was some respondents that felt that it was fun for students. No one really saw that there was no benefit to doing it, so I'm really glad about that. There is definitely benefits to doing it, and I think the two main reasons that came out of this poll with helping get students to try new foods and also a great way to promote school meals, I think you'll see that in the results of our district, and of course our students have had fun with that as well. So how did we begin with our nutrition education program? For us, we really did begin in the cafeteria. The results of that first poll that Teresa did showed the fact that that 45% of you said that that's where you were doing your nutrition education was in your cafeteria. So that's really where we started. As a school nutrition director, that was what I could control. We focused on theme days and signage. We created a cafeteria environment that allowed us to have posters and bulletin boards that helped us educate our students. We still do that. That's a very active part of it. Our managers take a lot of pride in the nutrition education messages that they present, and it's really easy for us to incorporate that on our lines. With that, we've also tried to target a lot of what we're doing around certain academic lessons and things that are being done in the school. For instance, Johnny Appleseed Day. That's a big day for us in September, and so we do a lot of nutrition ed around apples. We offer different varieties. What we serve is one big piece of that, but we've also gone in the classroom and helped read books. We've helped do lessons on how to make applesauce with teachers. So we've really come in and tried to support our teachers in a big way with the academics, with really that hands-on learning experience. The picture of this little guy is from Dr. Seuss's birthday. So my teachers were doing Dr. Seuss celebrations in their classrooms. We brought that into the cafeteria and made a healthy lunch that represented Dr. Seuss stories. So that was a way for us to really show them how incorporating Dr. Seuss's birthday in really a healthy way with healthy foods in our classroom. And of course, we use National School Breakfast Week, National School Lunch Week. Those are also great ways. And I put on this slide the third grade focus of Winn-Dixie. Some of you may be familiar with that. It's a storybook. And so our third grade does a whole segment on that. And so we actually do their lunch for them around that book and provide nutrition education related to healthy choices in their meals. Okay, so where it really began for us was in the cafeteria, but then as we tried to move into the classroom, that was really kind of a periodic opportunity for us. Usually it occurred after testing. Teachers were looking for things to bring in as enrichment types of activities, and of course I was willing to come in and share basic lessons on healthy eating. At that time, it was the food pyramid. Later, it changed to My Plate. So we definitely were receptive to trying to do those opportunities. We also actively sought some grants to help us have some resources that we could share with teachers. And really, the purpose of those grants was to give us that window into the classroom. Some of you may have had some challenges getting into the classrooms. Some of you, the teachers, may have been very receptive. But one thing you can do is just to be creative and pay attention to what's going on in your building. If you're a cafeteria manager, you know firsthand the sorts of things that are being focused on. And what we've tried to do is tie our nutrition ed lessons to that. So once we received some of those grants, we were able to buy some different resources and things that helped us do a little bit more nutrition ed. You see in the one picture, we've got the My Plate and we've got some things that we're passing out. Fuel Up to Play 60's also been a sponsor for us. So as we've done training and nutrition ed in the classroom, sometimes we're able to give the kids something to kind of have as a token. So in this particular case, the picture on the left shows students with footballs from fuel up to play 60. Again, it kind of gives them something to remember. We came in their classroom and did this lesson. So at that point, we were honestly probably doing about 10 to 14 nutrition education lessons in the classroom, which, was great, but we were trying to ramp up our nutrition ed piece a little bit more. And by that time, I had hired a free and reduced clerk that actually was also helping me with some of this nutrition ed. So we created a Google document that had time slots and sent it out to our teachers at our elementary and middle school and allowed them to sign up for a basic nutrition ed lesson. And y'all, we didn't get really super intense creative. We actually replicated the lesson in those classrooms. So it wasn't like we had to come up with multiple nutrition ed lessons. We basically took the same basic lesson and then just modified it depending on the age group. Like Teresa mentioned, you've got to think about your audience and know who you're presenting to and make it age appropriate. And so that's really what we were doing. All the time we were pointing those people back to the foods that we were serving in the cafeteria. The picture on the right shows kids taste testing. So we had them taste testing different forms of a food that we were serving in our cafeteria and getting them to try it. Again, like several of you noted in the poll, it definitely helps us expand the exposure to the foods that we're offering in our cafeteria. Okay. So once we laid that initial foundation of really exposing our kids to just those basic My Plate lessons, we really wanted to build a stronger nutrition ed foundation. And we wanted to look really for more ways to expand that nutrition education. So our elementary school started a STEM initiative. In some schools, they call it STEAM. At that time, we had 2 teachers that were assigned for this initiative, and students rotated through that as kind of a segment like they did PE and art. So the teacher there was very receptive for having us come in and support them. So look for those opportunities. If you've got a teacher that's doing an initiative, a lot of times it's easy to plug it in a science area. But just work with your teachers in your schools and see where nutrition ed might fit into that curriculum in a really big way. So we also expanded and worked with our student council members. We did some very basic nutrition ed conversations with them. Our high school group, we have a lunch group that we meet monthly, and so we talked about what healthy eating looks like, and then pointing them back to what we offer in our meal program as examples of that. And then we've really worked on a relationship with them to get feedback to help us develop menus that meet what their expectations are for the foods that they'd like to see us offer to them, which has definitely helped their interest and level of participation in our program. We've even given kitchen tours. That's a very easy way to deliver some nutrition education. Show them how you cook their meals. The kids get really excited and interested in that. Even showing them the types of foods that you cook might be a really eye-opening experience for those students to understand, that you are cooking lots of different fresh foods and items that maybe they've seen at home. That's what we've seen is a lot of times the correlation is made. Oh, my mom cooks those foods and you're cooking those foods for us as well. We also looked for, again, continued the grant route. So we received a USDA Farm to School planning grant, and that really helped us get some very significant resources that allowed us to not only go more into the classroom, but even into our community. And it brought about some partners. So we made partners with our local hospital, and through that, they have also provided more support to continue to expand our nutrition education. They actually purchased a cooking cart for us to use to go into the classroom and do more lessons. The picture up on the right is the Taste of Carrollton, which is a local opportunity where restaurants come and showcase their items. Well, we're there trying to educate our community about the choices and the things that we're offering in our schools to our students, really showing that our food tastes good and of course is a healthy option for them. And that's something that this will be our 5th year to be a part of that. That's had a big impact on our community, and people come seeking to see what we're offering. Every year we showcase different foods, but that's another way for you to insert yourself. Farmers markets are also another way that you can reach your parents through the community setting. We just really and truly looked for any way that we could possibly insert ourselves into whatever the situation was, whether it was in the school setting with academics or in community events that made sense where our students and our parents were going to be. That's where we've tried to provide those basic nutrition ed messages. Well, then we decided with that. Oh, I think I lost. We well, sorry. We took a big leap. I apologize, y'all. I went backwards instead of forwards. So once we had a couple years, and understand this has been about a 5 to 6 year process. So once we laid all that initial foundation where we really got targeted, did the Google Doc with a set number of nutrition ed opportunities for our teachers, continuing all the things we were doing in the cafeteria, we realized that we really wanted to be a bigger partner in education. And so we took a big leap, and we actually applied for and received a food corps service member. And so that food corps service member is, in essence, an extra person on our school nutrition staff that helps us go out into our school and do even more nutrition education and support the school academically, but with very specific nutrition ed type lessons. Early on, we were fortunate because we'd done some classroom lessons. Our administration was receptive to allowing us to do it. I don't think, to be honest, they understood probably where this was headed. We actually started this initiative 2 years ago. So this coming year will be our 3rd year to have a food corps service member working through our school nutrition program. The idea being that we are actually modeling nutrition education-based lessons that are also tied to curriculum standards, and basically modeling that ultimately so that teachers could do that as well. I don't know if y'all battle this, but we have where they did a math lesson maybe with Skittles or M&Ms. So instead of doing that type of a lesson, we go in and maybe demonstrate math skills making a white bean chili that we want them to taste because maybe I'm considering putting it on the menu, or maybe it's an item that's on the menu that they're not super receptive of, and we bring it into the classroom, tie that to some type of lesson. Math was the example I just used, but we've actually done it and tied it to language arts lessons, all different types of curriculum lessons. Really, you can take food and make it fit basically any type of curriculum lesson. And that really is when I think the light switch went off for our school in understanding the partnership that school nutrition could have with them related to student achievement. We really moved and catapulted not only continuing with the STEM initiative, we worked with our after-school program. A lot of times that might be an easy place for you to get your foot in the door. They're always looking for some things because the kids have had a long day in school and they're trying to do some extra teaching with that, but they want to make it fun. Nutrition ed really fits into that well. Our pre-K program was also interested in us coming in and doing a monthly lesson with them. So we have that set up every Friday. At the first Friday of the month, we come in and do a nutrition ed with those students. Most of the time, we tie it to our harvest of the month. You can see an example next to our logo of a bulletin board that was done. And, it's nothing fancy. Our food corps service member did a lot of that by hand, but basically we were educating our students on how peppers grew. That was the harvest of the month for August. We also do a lot of taste tests. So some of those are done on the line. Sometimes you don't always have the most staff available to go out and do that. We found that we can offer a taste test and sample just as easily on our serving line. A lot of times or we can take it out in the out into the cafeteria, but sometimes that just takes that extra person that you might not have. So you can do a small sample on your line, and your servers can encourage them to try it. You can have signage up that educates them about how it's grown and where it's grown. It's an excellent way to continue to expand your nutrition ed. For us, what was crazy is once we had that first year of really targeting a lot of nutrition ed in those areas, we were able to really jump ahead. If you see the logo on the bottom, it says we are Trojan grown. Once we got through that first year of working more closely with our teachers and tying those academic lessons to nutrition ed, they made a decision at our school. When that school has 1,700 students in it, pre-K through third grade, they made the decision to adapt really a nutrition ed based approach to their whole STEM initiative. They wanted school gardens. They wanted to take what's grown in the school garden and use it in the classroom, which was just incredible for us. So now their logo even, reflects that healthy initiative as a result of that nutrition education. Last year we completed our second year with Food Corps here, and we really let our teachers do a lot with the gardens. We kind of stepped away with that because that, again, became a school-wide initiative that we didn't have to help promote. We supported it and we gave them suggestions, but we weren't managing the gardens. The teachers were. But what we did was we really ramped up the culinary piece. So we started a culinary after-school club. We also started a monthly farm-to-school newsletter, continued to focus on our Harvest of the Month. But our culinary club was a great way for us to expose our kids to even more hands-on nutrition ed type lessons with food items that we either currently serve or we're interested in serving. The impact of how kids received foods was just profound. Kids that maybe didn't like coleslaw before, if we made it in culinary club, they got excited about it. And it's a group of 15 kids, but they start telling their peers. And so as a result, we saw, a lot of growth with that. And so our nutrition ed just continued to expand until now it's fully integrated actually into that curriculum. We've provided support for healthy classroom parties as part of that. On the bottom left-hand corner of my slide, you see a teacher showing a child how to cut up vegetables. We actually made a vegetable pizza that the class ate. And if you'd have told me that kindergartners would eat that kind of a veggie pizza, I probably wouldn't have believed it, but that's a product of nutrition education. They got involved in the preparation. We cooked the pizza for them, and they were so excited to eat it. And the middle slide shows a writing lesson to where each student made a healthy salad and tasted it, ate it, and then they wrote about it. They wrote the steps of the recipe out and wrote explanations about how they built it and what they thought of it. And then to the right is a picture of one of our cool new tower gardens. We actually purchased those with our Farm to School grant, and that really opened even more doors for us. They took those towers and put them in a classroom. So now teachers are taking their students through that room and doing even more lessons around how plants grow and how to eat and harvest and even prepare. We provided resource tubs for our teachers, and what's happened, and we've seen it through social media, is teachers are actually now going and doing these lessons themselves without us having to go in the classroom to do it. The most exciting thing, again, knowing that all of this is about pointing them back to our school nutrition program. This is to me the part that I love to see. We've seen a huge increase in the consumption of the foods we serve. So we were serving apples, but once we did lessons around apples where we were serving 600 servings, now we're serving 1,000. Same thing happened with tossed salads. Our kids grew those greens in those tower gardens and in our raised beds, and we would average serving about 500 tossed salads a day. Well, once they grew the lettuce, harvested it, brought it to us, and we prepared it and, of course, advertised that it was their STEM salad, from their class, we served over 800 servings, and that's been sustained. Um, the really cool results, and directors will get excited about this, and I'm sure managers too, is we've seen a big increase in our participation, both at breakfast and at lunch. And I think some of it relates definitely to the fact that the kids are more receptive to a lot of the foods that we're offering. But the other piece to that, I think, is just that school nutrition has put itself out there a lot more, to where teachers are definitely aware that we're an active partner, but parents are also aware. And so it makes them view our meal program, I feel like, in a different light. With that, we've also seen last year we saw an increase of over 2,000 meals. This summer, I'm so excited. I got the results, and I apologize I didn't update the slide, but we served almost 5,000 more meals than last year. So again, we took some nutrition ed out this summer with our summer session, and those were the results. I just want to share just real quickly with you too, kind of where this has led. So in 2013, we were doing 5 to 10 nutrition ed lessons a year. Remember, that was kind of the sporadic after testing time. Then in 2014 to 16, we got a little bit more targeted with our Google Doc signups, and we were doing up to 20 lessons in our schools. Then last 2 years ago, we started Food Corps. We did 60 nutrition ed lessons in the classroom. And then this past year, with our second year, and really the teachers figuring out, there were over 150 lessons done. Now, we did not do all 150 of those lessons. We did do quite a few of them, but that's where it started being replicated by our teachers. And then same thing with taste tests. The number of taste tests that we're doing has just grown astronomically. So, and in this slide at the top right-hand corner, you can see some of the resources that we were able to provide to our classroom teachers to support their garden initiative from our USDA Farm to School grant. So, the resources that are available to help you, I know that Teresa's going to share some of that at the end of the slide. I've also shared with her some examples of lesson plans, so I think that'll probably be posted at some point for you to reference. But there are a lot of lesson plans that are already done. It's not like you have to go necessarily create something new. And I know cafeteria managers and support staff in those kitchens are very smart and very creative. So don't be afraid to talk to the teacher, let them teach the academic piece, and you go in and support it with the nutrition ed piece, and because that's our area of expertise. We can handle that. Newsletters are a great way to promote that, and of course, so is social media. I'm sharing out with you, if you want to follow more and learn more about all the things that we've done, because it's very difficult to kind of streamline that and put it in a short presentation like this. Please feel free to follow us on Eat Healthy, Eat Local, Eat at Carrollton City Schools. That's our Facebook page. We're on Instagram, and that's at ccs.schoolnutrition. Then we also have a Twitter account. And y'all are seeing this for the first time. On Monday, this food trailer was delivered to our school district. So we're very, very excited about using it as an extra access point on our campus to serve our kids healthy school meals, and then also serve, of course, summer meals as well. But this is going to be a great vehicle for us to continue to educate our students and meet them and serve healthy school meals throughout our district. So, and this is just an example of some social media posts that we put out to our parents highlighting some of the nutrition ed that we had done. So, for instance, the Facebook post, Miss Miller's class did a salad and did a lot of hands-on learning. They grew the salad and then they made the salad, and she incorporated aspects of that into her classroom lesson, which gave them a really cool hands-on experience, hopefully helped them be super successful, in their academic endeavors. But it also allowed us to test this strawberry cucumber salad that now is a very popular item on our menu. So again, don't be afraid to kind of think outside of the box and how you can support these teachers. And that is really all that I have to share with you today. Feel free if you want to reach out to me after even the presentation with questions. I'm going to take questions now, but if we don't answer your question or you didn't think of it at the time of the presentation, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help help you know more details about how we have advance this initiative and really kind of the boots on the ground of it. So at this point in time, I guess we're going to open it up for questions. And let's see if I can get to where I can see your questions. There we go. If you want to enter your questions now, there's a spot on the webinar that you can type in questions, and I will see those and be able to um, help. One of the questions that has been just asked is, um, can I give an example of whoops, that flashed through that problem I didn't anticipate, y'all. Bear with me. Um, let's see. Where did I go to get the first starting material? So if that question is related to nutrition education, honestly, I Googled nutrition education. USDA has a lot of resources. ICN has a lot of resources. So there are so many resources around basic nutrition education, and then even more specific nutrition education that you can find. Use reputable sources. Even My Plate is a great source to look at. Another question that I just got asked is, are there any tips or ideas for really early learners? We have ages 0 through 5. So remember, we were working with our pre-K, which they're 4 years old. So with them, we're really just trying to get them to be willing to try and taste new foods. Sometimes that might mean that they wash the strawberry and cut it up and taste it. Or maybe they watch somebody make something and help, like dump the ingredients in, or they go out to the garden to see what a strawberry plant looks like. There's a lot of different opportunities there to do things with small learners. Again, if you Google that, there is a lot of curriculum and things that have already been built out. I found out this week that even Food Corps has so many lessons already done. So don't feel like you have to, invent a new great lesson. Another question I just got asked is, what's a goal that I could make between kitchen staff and teacher in class and cafeteria? So I think hopefully I'm understanding what this person is asking. For us, really, it started out showcasing the foods that we were serving and trying to encourage the kids and even our teachers to see those as great options and to be willing to try them and taste them. So it may be, again, an opportunity. A lot of times we started with a champion teacher that we had a relationship already, and we started out by going into their classroom and working with them. They had the lesson ideas, and we just found the food and nutrition ed pieces that match that. And pretty soon that built interest. Other teachers wanted to know why we were in their classroom and why we were taking that particular food item into their classroom. So it generated, more interest, and that's really, what started us on this route to continue to expand it with Food Corps now. Someone's asking if there's a way to print the slides. I'm thinking that ICN will be sharing those at the end. I'm sorry that you weren't able to see the slides. Somebody wasn't able to do that. And if you want to see my slides, if for some reason you have problems accessing them, just let me know. Does my district have a wellness policy? Yes, they do. We're required to have one. And that definitely was where we started back in the late 2000s in laying the foundation for this initiative. We were trying to help keep our teachers and all on track to following that wellness policy. You can have a great policy, but getting folks to follow it is always the challenge. So educating the teachers as well as the students has been a goal of ours throughout this. What is the cucumber strawberry recipe? They'd love to introduce it to manager. We actually just Googled that and found that, but I can share that. I think I shared with Teresa that lesson, but I will get that to her and we'll find a way to post that on ICN's website for you. Um, let's see. Dr. Dodson, would you use any of the curriculum offered by Growing Minds? To be honest, I am not familiar with that curriculum, so I would have to look at that. Someone sent that question in. Very, very good question that just was submitted. How do you get administration on board to incorporate nutrition curriculum? That, I can tell you, has been probably really the success of where we are now. When we started out, again, we were doing it after testing. So they felt, I'm sure, that it was like a fluff and stuff thing, if you will. Like it was just an extra fun activity that they wanted to let us come in and do with their students. But I wanted to be more targeted with that, right? I wanted to first and foremost promote our the food that our staff was working so hard to prepare for these kids and to educate our teachers about the great things that we were doing for those students. So remember, we continued to look for those teacher partners where we went into the classroom and did lessons with them and kind of grew that excitement. Then, to be honest, when I brought Food Corps in and I sat down with the principal, I've been extremely fortunate. I have very, very supportive administration now in Carrollton City Schools. Remember, I've been here 18 years. So it's been a process of, getting to know my teachers and administrators, and of course they change, but continuing to foster those relationships has been critical. So when we had this vision in school nutrition to add Food Corps to the mix, I met with the principal. She gave me the opportunity to meet with the lead teachers and basically throw it out there as an option, if you will. And to be honest, I'm sure they were kind of scratching their heads and thinking, what in the world are we going to do with this? But all it took was a few lessons to occur, and the validation for the success of this started really resonating with the teachers. And really, what happened last year is it grew so much that we had to be selective because I only have the one Food Corps service member. So we did some combined classroom activities and things, and again, shared resources so the teachers could replicate it themselves. But that's really where we've come to now. We're having to kind of schedule, if you will, on a daily basis where either myself or our Food Corps service member, and in a lot of cases our manager comes in and helps with that when she's not busy, with production. She also has come in and helped with that. Let's see, our school food. Let me look for another question here. How do we serve high school students? And are they as receptive as elementary students? In the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned briefly that we work with student council. So that has really kind of been our target at the high school. We felt like our student council were our leaders of our school. So we felt like if we worked with them, they could help disseminate our message. We've also incorporated student athletes. So you see on this slide where I've got questions, we've got all age groups represented, but you see the older students in the back. Some of those are student council members, some of those are student athletes, but we've utilized them. We've actually utilized them for some of our nutrition ed in the classroom. We've brought them in and had them read the storybook. In our district, we are Carrollton Trojans from pre-K through high school. So for our little guys, those high school students are like celebrities. So a lot of the initial efforts with them was really getting them to help carry our message. We had to educate them on what the message was, obviously, but you would be surprised at how receptive these kids have been and what a great support they've been. Once we kind of opened that dialogue, it really made a big difference. And we've even had them last year, they helped us serve. They all took a turn serving lunch, which can be a little intimidating to a high school student, especially to be serving their peers. But and honestly, when the sponsor teacher proposed it to me, I was a little nervous. But the outcome from that and the buy-in, they really got a picture for what was happening and how hard our staff worked to really prepare all these foods for them. That I felt was a nutrition ed lesson in itself, and that really brought our staff a lot of appreciation. Do I have a social media representative or site staff school person that's in charge of it? We have a district person that does social media, but to be honest, all of our social media primarily comes out of our school nutrition program. I do a little bit of it. My coordinator does the majority of it. But we don't try to, um, you know, bombard our parents obviously with so much information, but we do try to be very targeted in the messages that we put out in social media, and we definitely use it as a way to provide nutrition ed to anyone that's following us on those sources. What role can a school nutrition manager take in nutrition education in the classroom? They can be a major part of this. And I omitted this when we started. We had nutrition advisory councils in our schools. 5 years ago, we really started that route. And my managers led that cause, y'all. They met with the students after school, and I helped them plan lessons, but they delivered it, and they had a couple of staff members that were willing to support them in that, so they didn't have to go it alone. They invited guest speakers sometimes, community folks to come in and help them. But my managers did a lot of this, particularly early on. Most of it was after school based activities because during the day they were so busy preparing meals for the students. But managers, if they're interested in this, they're the great resource because they're in the school and they have those relationships with those teachers. And we worked with our managers to even help us know what teachers to start talking to about going into the classroom. So that's a very important role. Let's see. What role? That was the school nutrition manager. School nutrition is set a month at a time and our count goes down on certain meals. How can we get samples introduced? So remember I mentioned that we were doing a lot of taste testing as part of this program. Some of it we've actually carried the samples out into the cafeteria and had the conversations with the students about the food, getting them to try it, giving us feedback. Some of it, when we've been shorter staffed, has been we've set up signage and had them take a sample and then either give us a sticker on a board that says, whether they liked it or, wanted it served on menus or didn't. But we've just tried to be creative, sometimes utilizing our labor the best way we can. But a lot of times kids are afraid to try something. They don't want to make that their choice if in case they don't like it. So we found that giving small bite portions of it on the line is a really easy way to kind of have them do it in a no-risk manner, if that makes sense. I think my questions have slowed down, and we're getting close to being closer to 4 o'clock. I think, Teresa, you may have something that you want to add, but I do, welcome anybody that wants more specific information about Carrollton City Schools. You feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'll be glad to share resources and even more details of how some of the nuts and bolts of this worked. Kind of gave a very quick overview. Again, it's been a process over many years, and I just want to encourage everyone to start somewhere. Start where it makes the most sense for you and your school and the program, and don't be afraid to involve teachers. Don't be afraid to involve students. I think you'll be really excited with the results and the outcome that you receive in doing that. And I really appreciate your attention today. I hope that I've inspired you and given you some ideas that you can take and run with in your schools.
Thank you, Lynette, for that wonderful presentation and for sharing your success stories. As Lynette mentioned, we do have a few resources that you may find beneficial. And one of them, Lynette actually mentioned in her presentation, and that's USDA Team Nutrition Resources. And these resources are so wonderful. I looked at them and I can tell you they're ready to implement. They have materials for home, cafeteria, community connection, and they're actually standard-based materials that our child, teacher, and parent tested through extensive research, including focus groups testing, in-depth interviews, and field testing. The team nutrition resources are ready to implement lessons and are designed for a variety of audiences. If you have not done so, check out this amazing resource today. From ICN, we have now released a series of managers corners that focus specifically on meal components and the nutrition benefits of eating foods from the different components. It's a whole series. These are just two of the resources that we have. These lessons are short, intended to be about 15 minutes, easy to implement in a cafeteria setting where a manager can go in and educate the staff. In addition, some of the same concepts can be taken and modified a little to be taken into a classroom, work with parents group. They're a wonderful resource, and again, they're quick and ready to go. Another resource that we just released is a whole series of these very attractive posters. They're 8.5 by 11. They're on the ICN website, and they focus on, again, they complement the manager's corner. So if you're going in and doing a manager's corner, or you're talking to your staff about the manager's corner on the nutrition education series, you'll have a complimentary mini posters that go and enhance the lesson. What's nice about this, they're visually pleasing, and you can post them, you can leave them in the classrooms, you can send them home. Whatever way you decide to implement nutrition education, this is another great tool. Just a final reminder that today's webinar has been recorded and can be viewed on the ICN website. Please complete the trainer evaluation for this course. This concludes our July webinar. And remember to check our next month for another webinar on more exciting things going into school and nutrition. Thanks again to our speaker, Dr. Lynette Dotson, and for your participation. Have a great day.